Hi there, I'm Dark Shade, broadcasting out of the east of England. If you like my channel, you're free to subscribe by clicking on the bell icon. You're free to like if it resonates with you, or you put the thumbs down if it doesn't meet your expectations. And you can also leave comments. Today I wanted to talk about the lies we tell ourselves. And a lot of times we don't even realize we're telling ourselves lies. And what do I mean by that? Sometimes when we talk to ourselves without even thinking about it, we're telling ourselves lies. We're telling ourselves we can't do this. We're telling ourselves this is over, this is the end, this is bad, this is good, this is different. And a lot of times when we talk to ourselves, we don't have anything to substantiate why we think the way we do. Now, we all know that words create images and that whatever we say creates an emotion and it also creates an outcome. And what they say is if you change your thought, you change the outcome. But we're not always able to do that. For example, if you wake up and you've had a row with your boyfriend, and you decide, oh, he's gone off to see someone else. It's because I'm no good. It's because I'm not worthy. It's because I'm boring. It's because I'm disinteresting. It's because I'm fat. It's because, and you tell yourself all these lies about yourself, believing that this is the reason why he's chosen someone else. When really it's got nothing to do with you. It's got to do with him. He may just feel that he wants a change. It's probably got nothing to do with you at all. And so when we're talking to ourselves and we're having these conversations, especially after an argument, especially after a disagreement, because those are the times when you lie to yourself the most. You lie to yourself to protect yourself. You lie to yourself to keep yourself safe. You lie to yourself to justify and rationalize what is going on, why the argument started, the cause of the argument, lots of different things. You lie to yourself and tell yourself, oh, it's because he's lazy. Oh, it's because he doesn't care. Oh, it's because he's got someone else. It's because the honeymoon period is over. Whatever it is. When really it could just be as simple as he just wants a break, or he wants you to put more effort into it, or he's afraid that he's falling in love with you, so he's distancing himself. He's trying to protect himself, and it's got nothing to do with you, what you look like, what you're wearing, or whatever. So we have to be careful what we tell ourselves. We're constantly criticizing ourselves. And I did do a video about, I forget the title now, but it did have to do with having low self-esteem and something like that. And it's a similar thing when you don't feel as though you're good enough, whether it's because of past experience or whatever. But when you have low self-esteem, it's all a part of the same thing. It's what you tell yourself. The conversation you have with yourself is what goes into the mind. It goes into the brain and it stays there. And the more passionate you are and the more convincing you are when you're talking about something, the more your brain is going to believe it's true. That's why prayers work. Prayers work, especially fervent prayers, because you are internalizing what it is you're saying. And I had a thought that a lot of time, I know this Neil Donald Walsh, he had this book that came out in audio about conversations with God. And there are kind of concepts that say we are God. And you might even take that to say your mind is God. And so when you're talking to yourself, if you're talking to God, say you're a Christian and you're talking to God, you could be talking to yourself and giving yourself positive affirmations, because when you want to have faith in something, I've seen Christians do that. I know one Christian woman. She didn't pay a parking ticket, and I said to her, "Oh, you're going to get fined for that." And she says, "No, I'm not. I believe I am not going to get fined for that." And she went into this little rant, and I'm not going to get fined, and my God won't let me get fined, and blah blah blah. She didn't get fined. She didn't get nothing. All I'm saying is that they say that what we put out into the universe comes back. Supposing what we tell ourselves is a part of that. It's not just about our minds. It's not just about us talking to ourselves, but it's a bigger picture. It's about us talking to the universe, which is all a part of our mind, and having what we want come back to us if we believe in it enough. I think the times when we believe and we are really fervent is in prayer. I think when I pray, that is the time I get a bit emotional. Whatever the reason is, I get emotional and I really have a sense of conviction. And I really feel a change when that happens, as opposed to when I'm just talking flippantly. "Oh, I've had a bad day. I look like crap. I tell myself, I'm not going to do a good video today. I'm not feeling it." All of those things, instead of saying to myself, "Myrna, you're interesting enough. You're passionate, you're enthusiastic. And when you get out there, you're good enough." But I'm just like many people who give negative talk. I might do my videos and you might think, "Oh, she's got a lot of confidence. She's got it all going on. She's got it all together." But, I was watching the documentary on Prince last night, and I was thinking how we look at these people who are in the public eye and believe that everything is okay. We believe that they are loved by everyone just because they've got a lot of fans and people buy their records. But people are in love with an illusion, because they don't know the real person, and how Prince died alone in an elevator. And all I'm saying is that I'm not saying that I'm down or anything like that, but all I'm saying is that I'm human, and I'm approachable, and I hurt just like anyone else, and I'm not this person who is so strong that that I can fight off every single blow. And so sometimes I go through those phases where I give myself negative talk, and I have to stop and think to myself, where is that coming from? Why do you think that way? And sometimes I think to myself, well, a lot of times, if something doesn't go the way I think it should go or the way I expect it to go, I have to recall back in my past what didn't go the way I didn't want it to go. What happened in my history that makes me so skeptical, that makes me so mistrusting. And then I have to remember, well, my mum did abandon me. Well, we call it abandon. She didn't really abandon, well, it's relative. But she did put me in a home during my formative years. And so I could have felt those feelings of abandonment back then. And then, I went back in the house, and then it wasn't such a nurturing environment. So I think that sometimes my mind or my subconscious mind goes back there when things don't go quite right. And I start getting all of those feelings of, whether it's abandonment, whether it's rejection, whether it's low self-esteem, whether it's lack of confidence. I get those feelings as well. And sometimes, like this morning, I realized my self-talk, and I had to go for a walk and try to analyze why I was talking to myself so negatively. And I realized I had to change that talk in order so that I don't repeat the same pattern that I've been repeating over the years. And so, what I'm trying to say is that the conversations we have with ourselves are the most important conversations we can have. We have to make sure when we talk to ourselves, it's constructive. We have to talk to ourselves as we would talk to a friend. And we have to kind of don't not judge ourselves too harshly. When we're talking to ourselves, we can say, okay, you're having a bad day, you're not feeling too great, but it's okay. You're allowed a bad day. Maybe tomorrow you'll feel better, if not tomorrow, then the day after. And you can always build yourself up again. You can always tell yourself, look, this is not forever, and nothing is forever. And it's about building up resilience and start, seeing each day in a new light, in a new way of thinking. And I did write down a few notes, and it's just like, like we say, I wish. We say I wish as though it's not possible for us to have. And we have to start saying I can. It's like when we say I hope, we have to stop saying I hope and saying I will. Because when we say I wish and I hope, it's as if we're not expecting it to manifest itself. And we are in control of that manifestation through what we say. Also, you'll get people in couples. They'll say, "Oh, if he loved me, he wouldn't do X, Y, and Z." And that is not true, because people's definition of love is different. People's expectations from love is different. And the fact that he hasn't done whatever it is you thought he would do if he loved you doesn't diminish the fact that he loves you. So there's that kind of talk that, oh, if he loved me, he would do, because what you're doing is giving yourself justification for somebody else's behavior when you don't know what that behavior is. And the same, like, if she loved me, she wouldn't go and talk to that person, or she wouldn't spend all that time on the phone, or she would come and meet me on time, or she wouldn't keep me waiting. All of those expectations that you have of somebody, that you tell yourself, if somebody loved you, they wouldn't do that. You're more or less convincing yourself that that person is at fault. And then what you're trying to do is build stuff on that to support that narrative. And then by the time you turn it around, you're like, oh, that person is the worst person in the world. So we have to be careful about what we say. You could just, I don't know what you can say instead, but you have to, it's much better that you change your language into, I know he loves me because A, B, C, D, and E, not as opposed to, if he loved me, he would do that. You see what I mean? Because for you to be in a relationship with somebody, that person has shown you that he loves you or she loves you. They've given you an indication of their feelings. And so just because something doesn't go right, it doesn't mean that those feelings stop. It just means somebody's having a bad day. So when you tell yourself, oh, that person doesn't love me because, you're giving yourself a negative message, and that's not what you want. Try to look on the good parts of the relationship and then talk to yourself about them. Oh, I remember when he did this. I remember when he did that. Oh, I loved it when he did this. I loved it when she did that. That kind of thing, because then you're reinforcing positive messages. Yeah, we're not going to deal with no self-criticism. We have to stop the self-criticism. None of us are perfect. Don't harp on your flaws. You can, like I often say, you can notice your flaws, you can notice what's wrong, but you don't dwell on it. Focus on what is good about you, and the parts that you don't quite like about yourself, work on them about getting them right, and talk yourself through what you can do to get yourself to the level you want to reach, because it's up to you. You can be anything you want to be. If you like somebody, you can emulate that person. I've said it before. It takes, you need to act in order, you have to play a part in order to get on in life. And sometimes we have to act out the person we want to be like until we become that person. You might not start off being that person, but if you practice enough, you can become that person. And that's the person you want to be. That's not to say you're going to be a fake. It just means that you're emulating the good characteristics that you admire in a particular person and that you want to adopt. There's nothing wrong with that. And start using positive words like I'm captivating, I'm appreciated, I'm enthusiastic, I'm passionate, because those type of words will propel you forward. If you say I'm not interesting, I'm not lovable, I can't be asked, I'm not interesting, that will keep you stagnant. So you look for the language that propels you forward, that excites you, that makes you interested. Okay, I was watching this program. It was a film actually. It was 13 going on 30. And this young girl, she wanted to be 30 because she didn't have no control over herself when she was 13. And so she wished herself to be 30. And then what she didn't realize when she was wishing and she was showing her dissatisfaction was that she liked the idea of being 30 because she had seen that person in the magazines. But the funny thing is that once she was 30, she didn't really like being 30 because she'd made such a hash of her life. And, you know, the person who she thought she loved didn't like that person she had turned into. So sometimes we like the idea of something else. So when we're wishing that we were like somebody, we have to be very, very careful what we're wishing because we do not know the experiences of that person. We do not know what that person's been through to become who they are. So you just need to be satisfied with who you are and tell yourself that you are enough. Sometimes we're afraid of ourselves. Sometimes we talk to ourselves in the way that we do because we're afraid of ourselves. We're afraid of who we can become. We're afraid of who we actually are. When you think about conditioning as we're growing up, a lot of what we say is dumbed down by our parents, by the schools. We can't really be how we are because if you speak a certain way, you're told it's not appropriate. If you behave a certain way, it might not be appropriate. So you're continually being dumbed down. So what would you be like if there was no consequences? Sometimes I'd love to be able to say, you pee me off, you know, or whatever I feel like saying. But at the back of your mind, you're taught about emotional intelligence. You're taught that, you know, you don't say things to deliberately hurt someone. You're told that there's death in the tongue. And so you hold back and you're constantly holding back what you truly feel. And aren't you being unfair to yourself when you do that? I mean, how do you tell somebody how you really feel if you're not allowed to tell them? And then that it's suppressed and that person doesn't know how you feel. You haven't told them how you feel. You're trying to be diplomatic and polite and engaging and accommodating. So that person never really knows what you are feeling. And you don't feel as though you can talk to them in a way because it might be inappropriate to talk to them in a way that you'd really like to talk to them. Sometimes I would love to rip into people or into certain people. But, you know, I have to hold my tongue. Because number one, I think to myself, and you know, that's another thing. We overthink things, some of us. And sometimes I think, well, Myrna, supposing you've got it wrong. Supposing this is an assumption. Supposing you're hypothesizing. You know, you haven't got no evidence of A, B, C, D, and you don't know what's going on in someone's mind. Even though all of the incidents or whatever's happening tells you that this is a fact, because you haven't got categorical proof, you cannot say what you want to say, because then it could be thrown out in court. And I'm not even talking about, I say thrown out in court, but in your emotional court, it can be thrown out, or in your psychological court, or in your physical court, whatever it is. Because if you cannot positively evidence a particular scenario, what can you say about it in a convincing way? Sometimes I get to the point where I say it anyway and I don't give a toss. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I've done that in the past. I've just said, you know what, this is what my gut tells me. And I say my truth. Not in a disrespectful way, I just say it. And if they want to make me feel stupid for saying it, if they want to belittle me for saying it, so. But the fact of the matter is, I feel much better once I've said what I believe or what my instincts tell me, rather than keep suppressing it when it keeps resurfacing. And that's what a lot of us do. We have to suppress for a variety of reasons, whether it's because we're in the workplace, whether it's because we're not quite sure what we're saying is factual, and things like that. And when you're dealing with people, it's just like in a courtroom where they deal with facts. You have to make sure that you have all the evidence, and sometimes we don't have it. All we have is our gut instinct. And then what do you do with that? How can you fight? How can you fight with that? You can't. So I often say I'm afraid if I could speak my truth, I'm afraid that I'll change into somebody I do not like. I'll be blunt. I'll be cruel. I'll be angry. I'll be frustrated. I'll be unforgiving. And I might even be revengeful. If you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you back. So that is the dark side in all of us. Some of us manage to control it. Some of us manage to talk ourselves out of it. But there's a lot of people who, despite trying to talk themselves out of it, they end up doing some kind of nasty stuff. So it is really important that what you tell yourself is true. You're not telling yourself lies. You're not lying to yourself and then creating this picture which is false. And then you're acting out on false information. It's really, really difficult. It's really difficult. What I wanted to say, we put a meaning to every event that happens in our lives, and we attach a meaning to it, and it affects us. Whether we like it or not, it'll affect us. If we change the interpretation of our thoughts, because each thought attracts an emotion, it will change the outcome. You can't change the actual situation, but you can change what it means to you. So supposing you have a suspicion, if you reword it that, okay, yes, I am suspicious about this, but I'm convinced that I'll make a good decision in the end, whatever it is. Or I'll play it out, or I'll wait it out, whatever it is you want to do. But you kind of take control, so you take the emotion out of that suspicion and turn it into something that is calm and that is palatable and that is reasonable. And like I said, it does go against our innate instincts, our animal instincts, our gut instincts some of the time, that wants us to rage and get a broom, those kind of things. Because some people who've got no self-control, that's what they do. You watch Judge Judy, people puncture tires, they throw bleach on cars. That's because they don't have that emotional intelligence. They've actually acted out their venom. And that is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there are ways to talk your truth without necessarily without necessarily dumbing yourself down because of politeness, because of political correctness that we all have to strive for these days. You have to be so careful what you say. People are just looking to pull people apart for whatever they say, however way they say it. It's almost like we've got a load of vultures out there just waiting to rip people apart. Not quite sure what. Anyway, your conversation with yourself is the most important conversation you have. So even though people say you're mad if you talk to yourself, it's a very important. But you have to be mindful what you're telling yourself. You really do. Concentrate. Because you have to make sure that you're not lying to yourself. I was thinking about even something like the vaccinations. A lot of people, it kind of makes them frightened. Why does it make it frightened? Because of what they're telling themselves about it. We do not categorically know the truth about vaccinations, do we? We don't know if they're there to heal, whether they're there to hinder, or whether they're there to kill us. So the heal. If we think about the vaccinations that they're there to heal us, we can get on with our life because it's just like the flu vaccination. You don't have to be there worrying about the flu vaccination, although some people do. But, most people, they just have their flu vaccination and it's all over and done with. Or is the vaccination there to hinder you? Supposing you're thinking it's there to hinder you, that would mean it's a delay in progress. So you can think to yourself, well, okay, it's going to delay what I want to do if it makes me ill, or if my body rejects it, or if it's whatever it is. And you can kind of think, what would I do in those circumstances? Because I'm trying to think about the fear factor, what we're telling ourselves about the vaccinations that are making us so fearful and frightened, some of us. And so it's what we're telling ourselves why we're reacting in the way we do. So it's either heal, hinder, or die. The worst one is that we die from the vaccination, in which case we don't need to make a decision. The vaccination has made the decision for us. So we have to kind of think to ourselves, well, if what we're thinking about what's going on, whether it's a coronavirus, whether it's a conspiracy, whether it's a vaccination, we have to tell ourselves that we are resilient to withstand. We can manage this. We can survive this. We are better than this. And that, they do say good conquers evil, but we don't have much evidence of good conquering over evil. Evil seems to triumph over good most of the time. But I mean, at the same token, if you kind of tell yourself, look, even with the coronavirus or even with the lockdowns, if you start changing your language, that you're not trapped, that you're not isolated, but you're safe and you've got an opportunity to do things that you want to do. If you can try and change your perspective about what you're telling yourself about the situation that's going on, it will de-stress you a little bit. When we're talking to ourselves, we really have to find ways to de-stress. What we're telling ourselves, is it going to make us feel better? If it's not going to make us feel better, don't say it. Whatever you say, as soon as you open up your mouth, if what you're going to say is not going to make you feel better, don't say it. Put it somewhere else. Let it disperse in the air. Or you can say it just in case you forget and you can retract it. When you can always retract something that you've said and replace it with somebody else, it's just as effective. Your brain will replace what you've put there. It's like a computer. Cut and paste or find and replace. You could do that. So if you have made a mistake and told yourself something negative, you can replace it with something more positive or realistic. Okay, so news as it comes in, we can change how it makes us feel. Instead of it making us depressed and negative, we can look at it as being interesting and challenging. And that's what we've got to do now, because it is just about how we talk to ourselves, what words we tell ourselves. And yeah, that's all I've got to say for now. I hope it wasn't too boring. Bye-bye.